When you're working with earth walls, there are really 5 categories of layers. There's the core wall. In this case, it's our in situ adobe wall. Maybe it's a traditional adobe, cob, rammed earth, compressed earth block, tons of ways that you can build earthen walls. However you do it, the core wall is just the original wall that you build, and it may or may not be flat, and it may or may not need one or more of the remaining layer types to get it finished out. After the core wall, then you have Packout, which is for packing out really deep recesses, areas that need to be brought out. I don't necessarily need to do Packout on the wall itself. However, because I've decided to bring the earth all the way up to the bottom of the joists, before I can put the next coat on, I have to bring all that out. I have to pack it out with earth so that it's closer to the same level as the wall is. And that's what I'm doing right here. Let's do a little earth engineering. So throw our dirt onto the sifter. It gets out all of the larger stones, pieces of gravel. I'm gonna measure this out because since I'm adding sand to it, got my sand pile over here. All right, we just want a half a bucket of that about. Our other element of structural earth is fiber. I'm just using it to kind of hold together the mix. I've got some better stuff that I'll use when I get to the brown coat. And I also like to mix my dry materials before I add water, if possible. I kind of carved this into a volcano where there's a hole in the middle. I'm gonna pour the water into that. And I'm just gonna go around, get all the way down to the bottom, pull the material on the side back into the middle, go all the way around, start going back and forth. For the Packout, we're not so much mixing plaster. We are doing more like a cob mixture. Adding new material like this, I like to just go back and forth. That's better. All right, let's see what we got here. If we get it wet, that'll still help the new clay kind of like stick onto it better. All right, we got our cob-like mix here. Toss it between your hands. How do I put this? You're aligning the particles and you're spreading the clay and you're just aligning everything and getting everything nice and solid. We're just gonna slap it on there. One good strong slap is best. You don't want to play with it too much. The more you play with it, it's just gonna separate from that initial bond and kind of fall off more and more. Slap it on there, leave it there, move on. It's like a flick, like you want to flick it against the wall almost. Give that clay enough force. Not so much force that it just totally blows apart, but enough force that it spreads out over whatever it's going onto. That kind of exploded a little bit. I'm gonna get some smaller pieces. Like that. It's called spitting. You want to try and get it roughly at the level of the core wall. It just has to be packed out enough that when the scratch coat goes on, it'll already have enough material underneath it that it's not going to sag. Stuff is nice and sticky, really good clay. And then the straw also helping kind of hold things together, adding tensile strength. Structural earth, just by the nature of it, if it's well made, has a very good compressive strength, but it doesn't have very good tensile strength. And so when you add the straw into the mix, it helps add tensile strength. That initial hard throw also makes it squish around the nails up here and grip onto them, and that's our mechanical tie for this material, is those nails. We're gonna put some up top here just to help when we go to make a ledge here with the scratch coat. And there you have it. There's your Packout. After Packout, you have the scratch coat. Flattens the wall more, fills up a bunch of the voids, but you're still planning on having pretty thick material go on top of it, so the surface is scratched. You can see these ridges that are in the wall. Those create more surface area that let the next layer of plaster go on and have more surface area to grip onto, so you can still put thicker material on, whether that's a second or third scratch coat or if it's the brown coat that comes on next. Now we're gonna do some scratch coat. This stuff is a little bit too dry to trowel, so I'm gonna add a little water to it. This material has only been sifted down to 1/2 inch, which is probably still got some rocks in it that are a little big for most scratch coats, but in my case, I'm building the wall out thick enough that those stones aren't really gonna get in the way. A little bit more sand to balance that clay out. All right, this is looking like a better consistency. Spray down our wall, even the cinder block, even though it's not gonna soak, just having that water on there will kind of help it adhere to it. And then with the earth, you wanna soak it pretty good several times so that it has a nice soft surface to bite into. And you know you're ready when you can kind of squish your finger into the surface a little bit. Oh yeah, see that? We want that squishiness. Here's our scratch trowel. This is what we're gonna use right now as the ridged edges for creating that scratchy surface. Yeah, it feels pretty wet, but I think we'll be able to make it work. I put the flagstones down, attached them to the concrete stem wall, just so that the next plasters can have something to sit on so they're not right on the ground where any moisture that's on the ground can soak in and damage the plaster. On there, I'm gonna spit a little more on there. And we're gonna take our trowel and squish it on up. It's going to grab onto the screws. We wanna get big long scoops of it. Helps also to get some of it over here on the earth wall. And I'm using the scratch edge of the trowel to round it up so that we get those lines, those ridges. I'm just getting a lot of material on the wall. I'll go back over and smooth it out a little bit better after I get a bunch on there. Help squish it in a little bit more. Now on the corner here, take it off like that against the corner. I'm gonna eventually end up rounding off this corner. Once we get to the brown coat, you shouldn't even be able to see a hard ridge in there. Once it's dry, it's gonna be gripped around those screws really well and it's not going anywhere. It's also good to have a motion kind of like this. We do some more of that. Not only are we going to get horizontal ridges, which are better for putting our later material on, we're also going to blend our material horizontally, which is also good. When people ever ask, you know, how many layers do you need to do plastering, the answer is really as many as you need to get the surface that you want. If you want a perfectly flat surface, you may have to do, depending on how uneven the original wall is, you may have to do several scratch coats to get the really, really flat surface and derby them, which I'll show you a derby in a little while, and then do your brown coat when you're convinced that it is basically a flat wall. I don't really mind if the wall isn't perfectly even. Doing one scratch coat and then the brown coat on top of that gets it plenty flat for my purposes. I'm not sure it's really ready for the scratch, but we're just gonna do it. Just go all the way up. Otherwise I could stop here and come back later and do it, but I'm just gonna see. Yeah. See, because we did that pack out, I can put the scratch up and keep it relatively even all the way to the top. I'm putting it up there and it's just kind of sagging a little too much, so I think I need to wait before I go trying to shape this ledge. Keep our wall soft. First, just get a lot of material on the wall, then go back over, smooth it out, and smooth it into the stuff next to it. This is a pointer trowel. You can use this to kind of get down some of those awkward spots where our scratch trowel can't go. Keep the trowel angled so that you don't dig it into the wall where you just worked. All right, let's get this material moved. All right, there you have it. A nice thick area of scratch coat, but you can already see how much flatter the wall is, and you can see we've also begun to go all the way up. We've also got a bunch of nice grooves, and the brown coat will just flatten it out even more. So after the scratch coat, then we have the brown coat. The brown coat is the coat right before your finish coat, but the brown coat goes on once your scratch coats have brought the wall out to a relatively flat surface, and then the brown coat brings it even flatter. Your brown coat should be the shape of the wall that you want to achieve. This has been sifted down to 1/4 of an inch. It's gonna allow us to apply it thinner and it's gonna be smoother. Same mix ratio with sand. I've got different straw for this though. The full-size straw, it's not chopped up at all. It's got really long fibers. They're gonna be kind of disruptive to the otherwise nice and smooth surface of the brown coat. A lot of people make these kind of really crazy contraptions to try and chop straw. I prefer to just buy, a bag of chicken bedding. You can go to a Tractor Supply store and get a bag of chicken bedding for a few bucks. It looks great even in a finish if you want to have it in a finish like I did before. I'm gonna mix up the dry material. We're gonna make our volcano, grab our water. This is gonna be a little bit wet. It's gonna go on thinner and it's a finer mix, so it can be wetter, which is gonna help us spread it better too. Okay, beautiful. Not quite dry enough that you can cob it. It's wetter than that, but it's also not just runny. It's gonna stick. It's gonna got enough body that it's gonna hold up, but it's gonna spread very easily too. Absolutely perfect. We go soak our wall. All right, I'm gonna start just laying some material on the wall. We're going on thinner than we did for the scratch coat. I'm gonna introduce another tool in a second, which will help us get an even flatter surface. I'm also gonna do some more of my spitting in the corner, just because I find it a little bit annoying to try and get the trowel into the corner initially, especially when I have to bend down there. Trowel get too flat or get stuck on the wall. Sign of a good plaster though. Let's keep this wet so it'll still spread good for us. So this magnificent tool here is called a Darby. This one is a long, 3 foot long piece of steel. It's got a bit of a taper, so this end is thinner, and that's the end we're gonna use on the wall. Get a nice wet Darby. We want water on it. And drag it up. It's going to help us take off high spots on our wall and show us where any spots where it doesn't hit that are lower that need more material. And go over it until we have a flat surface. You can go sideways too. You can go diagonal. Now it's been made, the wall's been made more flat. I'm not super concerned that this wall is perfectly flat, so a couple passes with the Darby, perfectly fine for me. I mean, it looks plenty flat, even though I know there's variations in it. Now once we've Darbied it to satisfaction, we can now take our finished trowel, and we can go over and drag it over it with some water to bring the clay back up to the surface. I want this brown coat to basically be the final shape of the wall that the finished coat is also gonna show. I have one last thing to show you, and that is the sponge float. And what we can do to take out any marks we don't want around the bottles. Down here especially, you can see down at the bottom there are a lot of trowel marks. So we want to take all that stuff out, give ourselves a nice smooth wall. This is an optional step. I'm doing this because I don't have the skill level with a trowel to be able to make the brown coat as smooth as I want the wall to be. People that have been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years, they have that skill. For the rest of us mortals, this is a way that we can still have a nice looking wall, but it should kind of end up, once it dries, it'll look rather like this. A very nice looking, smooth surface. I hope that you found this video educational and inspiring, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching my video. Please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Digital transcripts of most of my videos, as well as some other goodies, are available on my Buy Me a Coffee donation page. Link is in the video description. If you think that sustainable development, earth building, and other appropriate technologies are as important as I do, then please consider donating whatever you can. It'll mean a lot to me and help me create more higher quality content. Thank you. Have a great day, and remember to go outside and build something.